We have 4 simple rules. Number 1, we don't discuss politics, ever. Number 2, this is not a religious channel, and while you might hear people say, God bless you, or I'm going to pray for you, or I wouldn't have gotten through this without my faith, that's fine. What's not fine is to say, my God is better than your God, or here's why you're not getting into heaven. It's not going to fly. Number 3, we believe wholeheartedly if you can't control your tongue, then you can't control your life. So while on board, there's not going to be any cursing in the live chat, period. And number 4, there is no room for mean people on the lifeboat. Because we discuss very sensitive things from people's past in our group setting, we got to protect those people. The only way they feel confident and comfortable discussing those things is in an environment that is free of trolls and mean people. So if you're a mean person or you're a troll, we're going to block you for life. And if your account happens to be less than 24 hours old, we're probably a little suspicious right from the word go. Why? Well, because there are people in this world who enjoy being cruel solely for the sake of being cruel. It's not going to fly here. But if you're here because you're trying to get sober and live your best life, then you might find that the lifeboat is just that, a lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and we will see you on deck.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and you're on the lifeboat. Boy, oh boy, we've been waiting for this, haven't we? You know something? I've said this before, and I'm probably going to always say it. The most fun that we have here on the lifeboat is when we get to interact with crew members. This is really, the rest of it is all, I don't know, it's all academic, I guess. But once you start talking to people that are actually out there fighting the good fight, I don't know, it gives me hope every single time. And I know that it's the same thing for the crew. We always learn so much when you hear how other people have managed to do what they do. And I'll start off by, getting my friend here to blush, because it's always a good way to start the show anyways, when you bring in the blush factor. But he won't beat the drum for himself. I'll beat the hell out of it. I don't mind at all. This is, if you're brand new to the boat, I mean, brand new, then you may not know who Alan Valentine is. But Alan is one of the crew members that have been here about as long as I have. He's literally been here since day one. And over the course of that time, he's become far more than crew. I mean, to me especially, this is one of those individuals that I've just really come to love as a best friend, as one of those people that, I count among the closest people in my life, in spite of the fact that we met, online and through the lifeboat. The friends that I grew up with and have spent my entire life with in person, I might, talk to once a month, but Alan and I talk every week. And he's one of those guys that's been setting goals for himself since getting sober and hitting them, like consistently, one after the other. Every time, he comes on, he's a little lighter than he was the time before. But I'll let him tell you where he's at in terms of hitting that mark. And just before we went live tonight, there's always a couple of minutes of talking, and usually it's just sort of fun. This time I was in a complete funk because I was sleeping a few minutes before we got this started. But one of the subjects we're going to be talking about tonight, because we feel it's probably one of the most important ones that we can ever bring up is guilt, and how guilt relates to sobriety, and to to fighting the good fight, because it is something that virtually every single one of us struggle with. Alan, my brother, how are you?
Good, thanks, Tommy. Oh, I'm really good, actually. I'm feeling the love. Thank you.
Good. We're really happy you're here. And of course, people, he is in the future. We're talking to a gentleman in Sunday, right? So we're broadcasting this live from Australia. But Alan, before we get rolling on the guilt thing, tell us where you're at on the weight loss goal, because we've been following this now for so long.
I think last time I was here, I was 203 pounds. I'll put it in pounds so that you guys can understand it.
Right.
I had a goal of 200. I passed that. I had a goal of 190. I passed that. So I'm currently at about 183 pounds, I think. So I've lost 132 pounds all up.
Good
so
Lord.
60,
Good Lord.
Roughly 60 kilos or 9.25 stone if you're in the UK, but yeah, about 133 pounds.
Yeah, you lost a human being, is what you lost. There are plenty of people walking around this planet that weigh less than that. So
it's just listen. It was part of my recovery. I really believe it's part of my recovery. Self-esteem issues huge to me. When I was an addict, I was an unusual meth addict because I was 140 kilos, 143 kilos at my hippest, and I used a lot of meth. It wasn't just and so I was unusual because I actually didn't lose any weight, but I used a ton of meth. So and we'll get into that, but when I finished that and I gave up alcohol, I thought, well, the next thing I need to lose some weight. Otherwise, I won't see my children grow up. I missed so much of their younger years due to my addiction that I wanted to be around. So I set myself goals, but you have to set realistic goals. So set goals that you can attain and that you can be proud of when you do, and that gives you more incentive to go on. So you set small goals, and 5 pounds, 10 pounds, it doesn't matter. But now I've actually reached my goal. I've surpassed it, but I've reached where I'm comfortable with. So I don't see much more, but there might be a few pounds here and there. But I'm pretty happy. I've gone from a 44-inch waist down to a 34-inch waist.
Good Lord.
It's just the health benefits. My HbA1c, my sugar level's down to a normal now. I don't have type 2 diabetes anymore. My cholesterol is below 4. It's never been that in life. My blood pressure the other day, would you believe, it's actually a little bit low. It was actually 115/60, I think. So, yeah, I know, right? It was 160/110 or something when I first started. So it's not just the benefits getting your life back. It's the benefits of your health, everything, your children. It's all a plus. And people just do it in small steps. You can't attack this thing wanting to lose 70 pounds in 2 months, it's just not going to happen. It'll just lead to failure. You set yourself some realistic goals, and that's it. And it's taken 2 years. It is. And people will doubt you when you first start because you can't see the goal. You can't see yourself losing weight. When you're 315 pounds, which is what I was, 10 pounds doesn't mean anything. You know you've lost it, but people can't see it. So don't be disheartened. Don't, when people don't notice it or whatever, just keep on track. I treat it, as I said before in my last interview, I treat it as an addiction and I treat it as recovery. So this has been my goal. I since I've given up meth, I've given up alcohol, this is my next step. And I've treated it like meth and like alcohol. And you've got to be on point. You've got to stick to it. If you have a bad day, if you have a relapse, you eat something, it's just like being here. If you stumble, get back up and start again. It doesn't mean you failed. It means you've had a stumble. No, everybody falls. Pick yourself back up. That's all it is. And it just takes, as we said during the week on the show, just dedication and commitment. But if you stumble, so what? Get back up. Get back up and try again. You will get your goal. If you're dedicated and committed, you will get it. And it's something you really want. So it comes back to other shows that you've talked about. You might not be ready at the stage. I was ready. I knew I was ready. I'm 54 years old. So I needed to do this before I died of a heart attack. My children didn't have a father anymore. They didn't have a father for 25, 30 years. How would they be if they lost their father 2 or 3, 5 years after I've been in recovery? So I used that as a goal. And I used my health, I used my children, everything. So I just did that, and it feels good to achieve another goal. I've done meth, but it's always you're always in recovery. and things can so easily slip back to using again, to drinking again, to eating again. So you've just got to be wary all the time. Find out your trigger points, like we've gone through again in other shows. Anything that triggers you, stay away from it. Don't go to fast food places. Don't go to liquor shops. Don't have, if you have a bar in your house, don't have liquor in your house. If you have trouble with alcohol, get rid of it. It's only a temptation, and a temptation to me. If I had meth in my house, even nearly 3 years in, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I'd fail. If I had alcohol in the house, I don't know. But you've got to keep away from these things. I'll never use meth again, but I've got to still treat it like I would. So I've got to stay away from these things. Don't let things trigger you. Don't go to places you can smell food. Don't go to eat fatty things. Don't go to liquor shops. Don't go to bars. I just don't do that. That's the way I avoid it. You've got to avoid the triggers, and you've got to know what your triggers are to avoid them.
I'll tell you what's exciting too. When you just mentioned what your blood pressure was, people, I had heard that. Like I tell them this, on every one of these interviews, I always say you're always hearing this stuff for the first time because we don't really prepare what we're going to talk about. But by way of full disclosure, Alan and I talk a lot. So that was one of the things we were talking about last week, and I said I just cannot believe how that's marathon runner. You know what I mean? That's like Olympic athlete kind of blood pressure. And just so you know, Alan, we got a guy on the boat that the first time he saw your video, the very first one you did with us, he sent me an email that just said, I can't begin to tell you what an inspiration Alan is. And he was about the size you were when you started, and he just said, "I'm going to do this. I am going to do this." And he's been setting goals, but he called. He texted me a while back to say that he had lost 20 pounds. And he said what you said. He goes, I'm not even sure that you can see it or anything else. And I said, go get you 2 10-pound bags of sugar, right? Or flour while you're in the grocery store and pick them up for perspective to realize what you lost. Because you're right. In the beginning, it's, it may not jump out at you, but I got an email from him yesterday that said he's at 30 pounds. So, and that's, I don't think you would mind, but it's DJ Daddy-O is just dropping weight like you wouldn't believe. And you were a big inspiration for that. So that's just awesome.
He's a really nice bloke. I've only known him through the chat, but he's always got something nice to say. He's a really nice, and that's excellent. You could, my father used to say that. He said, Alan, 60 kilos, look at, 10 kilos, it's a lot of weight. And you don't realize it until you do lose it. And then my daughter was saying to me yesterday, and she said, Dad, I looked at a photo when my granddaughter was born, and she said, you were so big, but now she said it's just amazing. And little things like that. It doesn't give you a big head. It just reinforces what you're doing is right. Yeah, it does. And to him, I've said this before, and it makes me a bit emotional. But to hear your daughter so proud of you when you were nothing but you were not good in her growing years, and to you get that off your daughter is just the feel-good chemicals, as you said, the feel-good chemicals, just wow, and that's love. And I miss that, but I won't miss it again. I won't do it again. Yeah, it's and there's another part of my life, my faith, and people, whatever faith they have, and God bless Tommy, because he's probably the one that made me to look into my faith again. And to me, that's a huge part of my life. And I don't shout it from the rooftops, but Tommy knows. And people I'm close to know, Joanna knows. And people that I'm, faith is strong, and that helps me as well. I pray every day for everyone on the boat, for Tommy, for Mark, for everybody. So that's another thing too. But be proud of small steps. Be proud, DJ. Excellent work. You're a good man. Really proud of you. Anyone can do it. You just need to set obtainable, reachable goals. Do it. For anybody who doesn't know, probably there's a lot of people now on the boat that wasn't here when I first did my first interview. I'll go, if you like, Tommy, I'll go back in the quick history of it. Anyway, I was a meth addict for nigh on 30 years, 28 years. Started off like everybody else on the weekends, then went to every weekend, and then when my first wife left me, it was open slather then. It was just whenever I had money, and I'd work, and I was a functionary. I worked for my whole addiction. and I'd spend all my wage on meth, and it was just ridiculous. I know times I'd go off a little bit and back on it. Then when I go off and I drink, and then it came down to a really big addiction. And in my first interview, let me clarify a little bit. I said I use a gram a day. It's $500. Here, a gram of meth is at minimum $500. It's $50 a point.
Wow.
So 10
Isn't that
points is
crazy?
$500. I was paying sometimes $700 a gram, and I was using a gram a day. And so that you calculate that. When I said I was using $30,000 in 3.5 months, you could work that out. I can do that
Easily. Sure.
Yeah. So
especially when you're
that's
also when you're, as anybody on the boat knows, also you were fronting a lot of that. And when you get stuff on credit, it has a way of being, number one, more expensive. And it also has a way of kind of losing track real quick, and I've had, suppliers in the past that would just let me run up, bill after bill after bill. And usually right around the time I would go and say, well, where are we at? I'll never know how much they just padded that, because you can't keep track in your head. You're just running back for more and running back for more and running back for more. It's crazy.
I think I mentioned last time there, when my second wife left me, I went straight to my dealer, and he said, he's 30 or 40 bags of it. And by the time I went back the third or fourth time, it was like $27,000. I forget what it was, but it's a lot.
Wow.
And, I was shocked, but I paid that off. But he knew that I worked. He knew that I was functioning, but he knew also what he was doing, and that I would not renege on that, because he was a scary man. Right. So, but then, anyway, and then when I gave up, I ended up going to Perth, found it again. Moving towns if you want it, you'll find it bad enough. So I moved towns and found it again, and it even got worse. Again, functioning and working. And then, just to make it quick of it, I had enough. And one day I sat outside and I was tired. I was 51 years old. I'm tired. I need to stop this. So I did. I didn't know how successful I'd been, because I've been to rehab. I said before, a long time ago, I lasted 70 days. So I thought I'll give it a try, because I was planning on moving to Brisbane to be close to my daughter. So I tried, and I did. Went 8 months. And then I came here, and I decided, well, and mind you, sorry, backtracking, when I gave that up, I drank more heavily, more beer. Beer was and I drink between a dozen and 15 cans or bottles of beer a day, every day. Without a problem. It wasn't, I wouldn't fall asleep or fall down drunk. I'd go to sleep. It was just, to me, that was normal. I wouldn't open a beer unless I had a dozen in the fridge. Because to me, if I couldn't, if I didn't have a dozen in the fridge, I would go and get another 24 pack, because it was a waste of time. Without a dozen beers in me, I didn't feel it. So then when I gave up meth, I drank heroin. So when I came to Brisbane, I thought, well, I've been off meth for 8 months. I'm going to give up alcohol. And I did it just like that. Was it hard? Oh, wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. It's the habit you fall into of coming home from work, grabbing a beer. I didn't feel great for a couple of weeks. So I think that was the withdrawals from it. But again, I had a goal in mind, and I wanted to stop it. I wanted my daughter to be able to call me, and for me to be able to come to her at any time of the day, any time at night, and not have to make an excuse, I can't drive because I've been drinking. And that's what I wanted. I wanted, to be there for her, like I wasn't there in the previous years, as I've mentioned before. And we'll get into this in a minute, the guilt. But then, obviously, after the alcohol came the diet. And it started off as just reducing the amount of weight. Now it's, just, long story short, now I'm on a low carb diet, and it works for me, and it's actually stripped weight off me. And it's not for everybody, and it's hard because there's no bread, there's no pasta, there's no potatoes, there's no rice, things like that. But to me, it works, and I really don't miss it. And I enjoy. I can eat most of the other things I enjoy to eat. But I suppose now we get onto the guilt. But I know that I watch enough of life. I've been around long enough that people struggle with guilt. Everybody struggles with guilt. I still struggle with guilt. Tommy, you know that. I've been talking to you about it. I look in the mirror every day, as you recommended, and forgive myself. Tell myself I forgive myself. And that helps. It's a huge help. But you will have flashbacks. You will have things that remind you of your past. For example, I drive past a train station, and I remember the same thing all the time, and it breaks my heart. I left my 70-year-old mother, roughly, waiting at a train station for me to pick her up for an hour and a half, 2 hours, while I was waiting to pick up from a dealer. Can you believe that? And that, it breaks my heart now. And then I didn't think anything of it. Your emotions are, I had two emotions when I was an addict. I was either really, really angry or really, really sad, but in the middle, I had no emotion. I had no heart, and that's not me. So I left my mother standing there. I put my kids in the car at 9:30 at night to drive an hour to get drugs. That sort of thing. I've left my kids with friends while I go and get drugs. The guilt from that, and every time something I see reminds me, I get these flashbacks. And you have to be aware that that's not you. That's not you now. When you're in recovery, that's not you. That's who you were. That's who you're not anymore. And you need to use that as a memory that helps you, and not as one that brings you back into usage, one that doesn't make you stumble in your recovery, one that makes you stronger. You need to realize that that's not you anymore. That was you, but this is the person you are now. Don't let guilt determine who you are. You need to use that as a tool in your recovery. Don't let it affect you. I've forgiven myself. My mum and dad have forgiven me. My daughter and my son have forgiven me. I'm forgiving me. But
It's the hardest of all of it, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm forgiving me. It's a process, but I'll never forget. And I use those memories now as a tool. Tommy was the first one to tell me, when I think it's one of the first things I went to were about the guilt that I face. And you said, look in the mirror every day and tell yourself you forgive yourself. And I do that every day, every morning when I clean my teeth, every night when I clean my teeth, every time I wash my hands, I forgive myself. And it helps, it really does. I don't forget, and I use those memories as a tool now in my recovery. They're not detrimental to my recovery.
How it really is, we say all the time how much we learn from the people on the lifeboat, that it's, it really is a two-way street. But, when I was doing the show about anchoring your sobriety and I talked about those memories and those flashbacks, that was something I got directly off of the phone call with you, when you were, you and I were talking, and you actually, you brought up the train station memory, and how we were both sort of going back and forth, people talking about how we'll just be cruising along and everything's going great. And the next thing you know, there's just a memory. I mean, slapping you in the face. It's almost like a flashback. And Alan said, every time that happens, I think of what I was doing wrong, not just, getting high or whatever, but, what was the effect? What were the negative things that I was doing aside from that? And I'll tell you, that was an epiphany for me. It really was, because now every time I have one of those memories, instead of sort of chasing my tail, which is what I would normally do and think, why the hell is this coming up now? It doesn't even make sense. Instead of doing that, I really have taken this to making that an anchor, in my sobriety. Every time one of those comes up, I think to myself, here's an opportunity, to reinforce the new life. And that was, an Alan Ballantyne gift right there. Niall said the same thing. He said, I love that. I just love that. Really is was a great method.
It's really, it's difficult. It's difficult to do. And I know that guilt racks a lot. Well, probably everybody in sobriety, I think, in recovery, has guilt. And I think it's across the board. No, you've always, you regret things that you do in your past. And I've seen young children without shoes on and clothes, and I think, I'd flash back to my kids, that I'd rather spend money on drugs than on their clothing, and it used to really bother me. Now, it bothers me still, but I don't get racked with guilt. I just use it. And how are things now? What difference is there now? And the difference is that I'm a decent human being, that I'm not addicted to meth, that I'm not drinking, and that my children love me and they're forgiven me.
And they rely on you.
Yeah, they do. And they're happy, they're proud. And so I use that as a tool. They're proud of their father. My daughter always says that. I'm really close to my daughter, and she's proud of me. And I know that. And she tells me she loves me all the time. And I've said sorry to her so many times, and she doesn't want to hear it anymore. She said, I don't want to hear it. It's not you now. And she said, I'm proud of you. And those words alone will just help me for the next 6 months. And even now I can feel the chemicals, because it just makes me feel good. Yeah. It's all about that. It's all about that. But please, small steps. Don't look to the future. Don't look too far into the future. Have a goal, yes, but don't look too far into the future. Day by day, if you want to use the old age, day by day, hour by hour, minute by minute, if you have to do it. I mean, for people who are only, in the early steps, Ryan, the guy, I mean, brother, you're doing so well, and it's day by day, you're doing really well. And that's the way you've got to take it. That's the key. Everybody's different. Everybody's recovery, sobriety journey is different. And do what works for you. But obviously take bits of what people can help you with. Take bits of what I've got to say if you want to. Take bits of what Niall's got to say, what Tommy's got to say, what Mark's got to say. Anybody else who does an interview or is in chat. There's always something there that you can use to help you in your recovery. Somebody will have something to say that will help you, if not everybody.
No question.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't tell you how much you're on point with what the chat was already talking about. So you're helping people right now. It's amazing, and just go back and you'll see it. But I wanted to point that out because Cody was talking here in the chat, and it's almost like you're speaking directly to him. It's kind of crazy. So just know, and I can't tell you how proud I am just to even hear you say this stuff, Alan. To hear you say your daughter said you were proud. Man, what more can you want? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to butt in like that. I just
No. I'm glad that you did, and I think the timing was perfect on it too, because we talk as friends. You know what I mean? When you and I get on the phone, it's just a couple of friends talking. It's not this isn't counseling sessions. It's just two friends talking. And very often we'll be on the phone, and I'll say, my boy called, and he started a new job and he was wanting me to help him with this or this, or, Alan will say, well, my daughter called with this, that, and, the last time we were talking, I said, boy, you know what? It almost sounds like they lean on us. You know what I mean? It almost sounds like we're the go-to guys in this whole situation. And I think it was a buzz for both of us, that realization that, the two guys who probably were the last people on the planet that anyone would have, called and said, hey, can I get a little help? Because, they knew we'd be off in the wind, or if we had $4, it would have already been spent, or God forbid they call for help, we might borrow money. But once you start to realize that the people in your life that you really care about kind of look to you as that problem solver, that is again, the feel-good chemicals that come from that. It was just, It really is one of the best buzzes in the world.
You get the positives you get out of your recovery, you've just led into. I could give you heaps of examples. My daughter needed money for a reason. It doesn't matter. And I was able to give it to her. My son was in hospital with a broken foot. I think Tommy, I told he needed money because he couldn't pay his rent. He had no job. I could do that. It's not gloating about money. It's gloating that I could help. And that's the positive recovery. These are the positives that people don't realise you can do this. The positives of being that you're off drugs. There are other positives that go along that line. You can help with money. It doesn't have to be money. You can help with something. You can have them over and not be afraid that they're going to interrupt your drug schedule, or that you're going to have to get high, or you're going to be wasted. But you know that you can comfortably come over and be with you. You know that if you have money, you can lend it to them. These are all positives. These all stack up. And this will make you prouder and more determined and committed. It goes back to, again, the dedication, the commitment, the determination. And these are all positives that you get along the way, that you can help your kids. You can, and no, life's not about money, but when you can do that for your children, you know what, it makes you feel a lot better, because the amount of money I've spent on that, and I haven't spent on them in the past, is just, something, as I said, I've forgiven myself for, but I'll never forget. And I use that as a tool, as going back on what I said before. But now the positives of recovery, again, you've got more money, more money to spend on your life. You wake up in the morning, I thank God that I'm awake. People, have a coffee, I have a coffee, whatever. But these are the positives. Before, as Tommy said, it was I wake up if I didn't sleep. When am I going to have my next fix? When am I going to get high? When am I, how am I going to afford this? And what am I going to do when it runs out? I'm going to be really tired. I'm going to be terrible at work and all that. So I don't worry about that. If the worst thing I've got to worry about in my daily life, when am I going to get a coffee? Well, I'm doing all right.
Right.
If that's the worst thing in my life I've got to worry about, I'm doing okay.
Yeah, you're killing it. And I'll tell you, we talk about the gifts that come from sobriety, and we talk about often about how we're not just like other people. In a lot of ways, the recovering addict is one of the kindest people you'll ever meet. I mean, really, because of what we've been through. But one of the things that I've seen across the board is that, because of how we lived for the length of time that we did, you tend to be the people that I've seen who are in full blown recovery, right, are some of the most generous people in the world. Because if someone says, hey, I'm in a bit of trouble, and the average person walking the street might think $200, you know what I mean? God wants to borrow, you know how much money that is? But to people like us, that was a third of what I put in my arm in a day. Like, $200, you know what I mean? Like, it's one of the things that almost translates, or you kind of drag along with you no matter what, is that, that we have a different perspective on what a little bit of money is because of what we spent. I just spent so much of my life having to come up with $700 a day that, my boy never puts the huge bite on me, but when I get a text, it's usually hey, I'm $40 short of this or $50 short of this. And one day he said to me, you're just so generous with it. And I thought, everything I've given you all together was probably, 3 or 4 days, worth of the life. And I think some of it, Alan, probably comes from guilt. There's a little of that because, like you said, that, when I spent a lot of time with my son when he was a boy, I really did, but I wasn't giving him what he should have got. The best of me was drugged, so there, you hear people all the time talk about, well, you really need to spend some quality time. And I used to think, the hell does that even mean, right? I used to think that quantity was, you spend a lot of time with your kids, you're going to be all right. But looking back on it, I might have been with them, but I wasn't all there. I really wasn't.
I agree. I mean, I have to agree. I mean, when my first wife left me, I remember sitting in my, and I was probably a drunk then as much as a drug, and I was sitting in my bed crying because my wife had left me, and I had my children over. It must have been one of the first weeks we spent alone because I had them every second weekend. And my son, who was 6, came up to me and I was crying. I still remember him giving me a hug and saying, "Dad, it's all right. We'll be okay." Still brings tears to my eyes today. And I remember that. And I used to remember it as what a piece of garbage father I was. Now I remember it as I'm not that person anymore. And you're right. We're not going into amounts, but I had to give my daughter a reasonable sum of money. But you know what? That was 2 days worth of drugs. So what? So what? And
right.
She doesn't ask for all the time. She works hard. She's got a partner. He works. Some things happen that are out of their control. That's what I'm there for.
Yeah,
that's what I missed out on.
Yeah,
it's not about wow, I'm good. I'm giving. It's not about that. It's about just being there. That's what a dad is. That's where I wasn't. That's where I am now, and that's where I will be to the day I die. I will never ever stick another needle in my arm.
You guys hear that?
I can guarantee you that.
Take a listen to what he's saying right there. That's confidence in what he's talking about. And if you guys can get yourself to that position, just watch it. I can see it. It's so awesome.
No, and it really is. I think that and when we talk about the those memories from the past becoming an anchor, I think that's really kind of the takeaway is that Alan has gotten to the point where and I kind of feel like I'm in the same place where anytime one of those memories comes up from the past, instead of threatening my sobriety, it anchors my sobriety. It really has gotten to the point where those kind of like harsh memories and harsh sort of flashback type things, every time one of those comes and goes, I think to myself, there is no way in hell. Just a quick story, 20-second story. My nephew and I went out to pick some stuff up today, had to run by a Sam's Club. But while we were in there, I'm going to take a left to get out of the building. And a cop starts screaming down the aisle with his lights on toward me. And then at the last second, he jammed on the brakes and went in the opposite direction. Well, they were chasing down a guy that they ended up arresting for theft and tackled this guy and had him on the ground and was handcuffing him. And I was driving by, my nephew said, "What are you thinking?" Because I must have had a look on my face or something. And I said, "Well, I'm glad that's not me." And as I was pulling out of the parking lot, I said to him, "And that's never going to be me again." It really was one of those things that for a split second, I thought all of the terrible memories came back and what it felt like to be tackled. Because, you've been through all of this stuff with the cops, or I had. And, I'd been right where that guy was. And I could think what he was going through in his head. Tonight I'm going to be sick. I'm going to be in jail, whatever. But then that just sort of wave of relief that, I don't care if I live 5 more years or 70 more years. That is not something that is ever going to happen to me again. That is such a a part of my past, but it was one more opportunity to just use that to cement my resolve, just to cement all of that in,
It's exactly. I mean, as I said before earlier, that with my daughter telling me she's proud of me, my daughter saying, this cement it and use those feel good moments to cement your sobriety. It happens. As I said, Tommy put in my mind months ago when he first said I will go to your pine box before I use again. The same thing as me, or something like that. Tommy, I messed that up, but I won't use meth again. I hate it. If I can help anybody that needs help with it, I will. And you can contact me. I'm on Messenger if you have to. It doesn't bother me. I'll never use again. Alcohol, I won't. I know I won't. But it's all around. As I said, you can drive down the street and there's a liquor store. But you've got to distance yourself, as I said, from don't go to a pub. Don't go. What we call a pub here, the bar there. I don't.
Right. Yeah.
Whatever. You know what I mean. A club. Don't go there. Yep. Don't go there. As simple as that. Distance yourself from those. But as far as memories go, use those, anchor it, and be proud of what you've achieved. If you've got 1 day, 2 days, be proud of it. Everyone with 6 years or 10 years sobriety started 1 day.
That's right.
Started at 1 day. Yeah, everyone started 1 day. People think, I'm coming up to 2 years from alcohol and not quite 3 years from meth. And I look at Tom and think, wow, Tommy started at 1 day. I started at 1 day. Guy, you started at 1 day. Brandon, 1 day.
And he's to 5. Yeah, the guy is to 5
excellent.
today. So
I know. That's what I'm just saying that. Everyone. What I'm trying to say in bad ways, everyone has to start from 1 day.
No, that's right. So, every single person they had that 12 hours, 16 hours. Because you remember in the beginning, you're looking at your watch, man. You're timing that by the minute when you first quit.
Sweating it. I used to. I used to time on the way home from the dealer. No, you'd think I've just picked up. Last 20 minutes till I get home. It's like this, white knuckling all the way home. You'll do this, it's just terrible. And now I think I'm sober and I'm in recovery, and I'm still in recovery. Everyone's in recovery. But I'm living the life, and it's a good life. It really is, and it's worth it.
It is a good life.
Everything.
And you know what? I'm sorry, but just a quick apology because the guy is on day 6. So I stand corrected, and I apologize. But one point that, because you know how I go, I'm brain dead and I'll squirrel away and I'll forget about this. But one point that I really want to hammer home that I hope everybody caught in this, because just like Mark said, you can hear it in the confidence in your voice. You're not going back. I don't think there's anybody here that doubts that for a second. But if you're paying attention, you also heard him say, "But I'm not going to a pub. I'm not going to go near any of these places." People, when you start, one of the biggest enemies of sobriety is complacency. And as we start getting, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, 7 years, whatever that magic number is, everybody gets to the point where they're like, I could go to the bar with my friends and shoot, play darts. It'd be nothing, be no big deal. Or I could go back into the hood, or I could do these things. But like you said, it's just like the weight loss. I'm not going to go sit in a place that sells pizza by the slice and gives it away or anything else. You don't build temptation into your sobriety because there's no point in it. And I think that there are people who, maybe confused sometimes that, you can get too confident. You really can. You can get too confident no matter how sober you are, no matter how good your fight is. Man, just avoid the temptations because they're not that hard to stay away from.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not being big-headed. I'm not anything.
No.
I won't use meth again. But alcohol, I stay away from bars. I stay away from places with alcohol. When I go to, I went away to Darwin during the week, and where I stayed at the motel was obviously a bar and a Chinese restaurant next to each other. I chose to sit in the restaurant because I don't want to be near the temptation, and it is temptation. It still is, and I'm not that strong. I'm not that great. That temptation is temptation, no matter who you are.
You're damn right.
And I don't want it, and I won't put myself in those sort of situations. So you can't. The same with food. Don't go into a fast food restaurant. If you're on a diet, don't go in there. It's as simple as that. Stay away from it, and you will get better at doing this as you go along. And I'm only early in my sobriety, really, compared to people like Tommy, Mark, Charlie, and other people. Sorry if I don't, but I'm only early on, and by no means do I think this is a battle won. I know I won't use meth again, but alcohol and the food will be well, I will have to deal with that the rest of my life.
Sure.
And I'm happy to, because the benefits, and the rewards far outweigh anything. And I couldn't be happier. And you need to do that. Think of your future. Think of how happy you can be. And it is real. The happiness is real, and the feel-good chemicals are real, and people around you will be proud of you. And those who aren't, don't worry about them. Don't worry about them. And I had friends from school who don't talk to me anymore because I was a meth addict. Yeah, I was. If you don't want to be part of my life, that's fine with me.
Oh, yeah.
I don't need those people in my life that aren't willing to see who I am now, and that's fine. Not everyone is going to love you, is what I'm trying to say, because you've given up. Like Tommy said, some people, oh, well, yeah, are you sober? Or yeah, I am. But some people, you can see in their eyes the doubt. That's fine. That's fine. I know I'm sober. The people close to me, the people who matter, know I'm sober, and that's all that matters. Don't worry about what other people think.
That's exactly
key.
right. It really is,
Isn't
Alan.
it?
And I would say this right here too. It's for those of us that were in the drug world. It's the same thing as not taking that same road back home, because your dealer's there. Sometimes you have to dodge that, and that's what Alan's trying to say here with like the beer and the food and stuff like that. You can't do that with that stuff, right? So you have to figure out a way to get in your mind to try to deflect that when you see it. And I really truly think that he's on point with everything he's saying. It all sounds cliche. It's all but like Tommy says all the time, a cliche is a cliche for a reason, because it actually works if we just take it serious. And and I would say, the confidence that I see is so great, Alan. I mean, just seeing your confidence gives me more confidence. It's weird, it's weird like that, but it works, man.
No, this is why group therapy is the gold standard. People make no mistake. It's the reason that for now on a century, people have been going to meetings and watching, like when they have speaker nights, and they have guys that come in who say, I was doing X amount of this per day, and now this is what I'm doing in my life. Because every time we see one of those, it's like anything else, people. This is we did a show once where we talked about the 4-minute mile. Right. For eternity, doctors used to say that the human body wasn't capable of it. Like, it might kill you, like literally. And for, a period of about 10 years, all of the great runners were trying to break the 5-minute mile. And, a couple of guys got within a couple of thousandth of a second, but and they said if it was ever going to happen, it had to happen on a dry day. There had to be no wind. They had to be all these things. And then right after a rainstorm on a wet track with a wind in his face, a guy came out named Roger Bannister, and he broke the 5-minute mile. But the punchline is, within about 12 months, 9 other people did it.
Yeah.
Right. Because once you realize that something can be done, you go, damn it, I'm going to do this. I can do this. Yeah. It's a perfect example with DJ Daddy-O. I promise you, he will be on here within a year and a half, and he's going to be talking about losing 110 pounds or 150 pounds or whatever he hits, for his goal. Because, and a great deal of that, Alan, is really from you coming on here and doing this. And I know it always makes us feel weird when you hear things like that, but it really is the truth. And it's just what Mark was just saying. Like, how he said he watches you and he gets fired up. Well, there's a lot of goals that you set, that you hit. And this is why I love doing these more than anything else that we do on the boat, because, one guy sitting and talking for a year, or 2 guys, I should say, there's only so much that Mark and I can do. But when you see people that aren't the daily show, so to speak, who are coming on here and hitting their goals, and I'm telling you, man, I'm so inspired by you, Alan. I really am, and I learn from you, and that's the beautiful thing about sobriety, people. It's not like so many other things where, well, if I'm going to learn from this person, I want to find a guy that's got 55 years of experience and has a degree from this place or a degree from that place, and who did he study under? Man, you find the guy is 6 days sober, and I promise you can learn as much from him as you can from me. Yeah. Every single person who's fighting the good fight can teach you something.
He's got a degree in life. That's right. That's what it is.
PhD in life. That's right. I betcha.
Listen, I think you learn from everyone. I mean, there's people, if you watch the chat, and unfortunately, as you know, I work during the week in here, but on the weekends I'm here every weekend, and the chat is just amazing. I mean, you people, I can't name everyone because I'm going to miss somebody, but Charlie, Niall, Steve, Ryan, Jesse, and all the ladies, everyone. Just look at what they write and take away things from it. And I need this show and I need this boat for my recovery. I don't think that I would be not as easy. That's not the right word. I don't think I'd be as
You
way
might.
I am now without it.
Yeah, I think it might
think
be
I need it.
like some of your confidence might drop a little bit if we all weren't here all
Yeah.
the time. I mean, that's kind of what.
I stalled a bit there. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're okay.
No, we get it.
I just wanted to make sure we were wrong. Everybody knew what I was clarifying
Yeah, I was
there.
trying.
But yeah.
I'm trying to say I need this bait in my recovery, and I do. And I think most of the people come here to do that, and we rely on this. And as Tommy, this is a family. This is a much more. It's closer than anything I've ever seen before, and everybody is so good, and it helps everybody. And I think we are a family, and I really believe that. And I think there's a lot of love, and there's a lot of experience, and there's a lot of knowledge there. And so I think we have to sort of bounce things off each other and use it. And even if you only find one comment that helps you out, it's one comment that you didn't have before. It's something you can use. But the chat is full of great comments. So use it. Use people who are willing to help you. I mean, there's people who are willing for you to contact, things like that. And I'm one of them. And there's other people in there that can be contacted and help. If you need help, just ask. And this is a great place to be if you're in recovery. A really great place to be. And you wouldn't get a better bunch of people, to be honest.
No, and that part really is the truth. I mean, this is such a great group of people, and in recovery, I think one of the biggest mountains to climb is that 99% of the time you're going to be surrounded by people who are not in recovery, right? You're going to be with family, friends, and they're all air quotes normal, meaning that they're not people who are in recovery, and you're trying to live your life one day at a time, especially in the beginning. You're just trying to get through that first 24-hour mark or that second 24-hour mark. And you're surrounded by people that, if you say to them, you just don't know how bad I want to drink today, or you don't know how bad I want to get high today. I mean, they give you this look like, you're weak, and here we go. And, when you need more than anything in the world, just a little bit of understanding, the people that love you the most don't have that capacity. It doesn't make them bad people. I'm not bad mouthing them, but you have to sort of have been in this boat. And that's what makes the lifeboat so unique, is that all of these people are, we've all been in the same boat. And we know that there are times that it's, not even one day at a time. There are times it's, 1 minute at a time, and no one will ever judge you. It's a pretty nice place. It really is.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. The sanitarian pops in and says, it's so on point and it's so legit. My friend used to say, handle it, school grad. So, because people do. They look, and I don't like using this term because I don't use it very often, but they look at us like throwaways, right? And that's really how it is. So when people do come at you like that, like Sanitarium was saying there, you don't have to stand there and not defend yourself, right? I mean, some of us that are in the drug life for so many years, we just our goal was to get that drug, so we let things just hit us and not even say anything. And you just kept letting it just pile on. Well, you don't have to do that no more. You are in recovery. You are not that person anymore, which means you don't have to take the shit. Excuse my language, but that's what that means. You no longer have to do that because you've taken responsibility for what you needed to. And that's where you're moving. And I could see that so much in both of you sitting right there. And everybody in the chat. I mean, it's just such a great thing.
You don't need those people in your life. They're a negative influence on your life, as far as I'm concerned. Who were your friends 20, 30 years ago at school, who look down on you now because you were an addict? They have no idea how hard the struggle is. They've got no idea how tough life's been. Yes, it was your choice to make life tough, but to come out the other side of it, they have no idea. If they don't understand, well, you don't need them in your life. You really don't. They're a negative influence. So get rid of the negative, positive only. You need positivity.
I love that the guy says it's easier to share and open up at the end of a keyboard. And you know what? There's so much to that. And what I have found, and it blew me away because, people, there was a time where Mark and I really we spent a lot of time talking about whether or not it would have the same effect. Whether or not people would get the same benefit of a group therapy if they were at the end of a keyboard. And we went back and forth. Both of us sort of taking both sides and saying, it probably will do the exact same thing. And then in the next conversation, we'd be saying, maybe it won't. If people aren't. But once we started doing the lives, it was evident very quickly that there's really not much difference, except that it's a whole lot easier. You're not feeling like everybody in there is staring at you, trying to to judge you or anything else. And it makes it so that very quickly you can become part of something that, as Niall was saying the other day, a lot of times it gets real cliquey and it starts feeling like a high school situation where the cool kids are in the corner talking about their sobriety. And, these people are in that corner and you walk in just feeling like I'm one more place I don't belong. But there's nobody that doesn't belong on the lifeboat. So
so great. It really is.
You get,
Go ahead.
You get new people in, and there'd be at least 6 people say hello to them or welcome them. And Jackson told them he loves them. And people just went away. I think yesterday in the chat there was somebody who went, wow, and who was new, and I forget who it was. Sorry, my apologies. But and that's the sort of welcome you get. This is why this is family, and people, they love that. They don't feel out. They don't feel like an addict that's alone. They feel like they have people there that understand. And that's the main thing.
And that
understand.
That is so on point, Alan. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I see people in the chat get shocked when Jackson puts that in there. I love you.
Yep.
And they're like, how can somebody love somebody that don't know me? Well, you can. You really
make
can.
No mistake. If you're new to the boat, he's not just saying that, people. That man loves you.
Yes.
Believe that.
Yes.
And I love Jackson. I really do.
And
he's the best.
And I would say that for almost everybody in there. It really is that way. You get hit with welcome, and that's not an empty welcome. It's a welcome. Please tell me what's going on, and maybe we can help you. Welcome. Is what that is.
Yeah.
So
Jackson's amazing, and I think that's what keeps people coming back. They might sit there and observe for a while, but then they come into the chat, and I think it's probably the most welcoming chat I've ever seen in my life, and it's amazing. Just an amazing place with an amazing family and amazing people.
Well,
and
you know what? Since Mark and I have nothing to do with that, we'll brag about that till the end of time, because we're not. That's not us, and we do not have a problem bragging about that. We got the best crew in the entire world.
Yeah.
You go to. I mean, there's just not much else like it, because usually you're showing up for the subject matter, and here the people that show up need help. I mean, just plain and simple. You're not swinging by the lifeboat because you just want to see what's happening. You're stopping by the lifeboat because you're at a place in your life that has become, untenable. It's a situation that isn't working, and you come here a little nervous to see what, and you get Flamin' Jackson and the crew and your family in about 2 seconds, which is just a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
and you get all kinds of inspiration.
Let me say one more thing, and again, I'll just be quiet here, but maybe. I see this and I look at the whole interview so far, and obviously we're talking about guilt and all that, and how our memories and stuff could really lead us to a bad place. And it hit me about 15 minutes ago while you guys were talking about this. I'm not God. God's the one that promised you, that He would forgive and then forget.
Right.
We can forgive, but we're not going to forget. We're not required to, guys. We're not.
Yep.
And I think that if people could grab that, they would understand what I'm saying. Because, like Alan said, such a great way you said it too. You're taking that, it's a negative, you're flipping it to a positive, and you're making it a tool to continue it to be a positive thing for people. And you've taken it a step further, Alan. You're telling people about it.
Yeah.
And that's important. Communication.
Yeah.
So, and I'll shut up. Sorry.
Yeah. It's probably the most important thing. Don't let your guilt override you. It'll try to, but don't let it override you. Use it as a tool. Don't let it become a negative. Don't let it be negative in your life, is what I'm saying. Make it become a positive. And you can do that. And hopefully you've picked up something from the last hour or so that can help you do that. You need positives in your life to help with your recovery. I really believe that. And being here is one of them. Being in this boat is a huge positive. It'll help amazingly anybody. Just let people help you and listen and learn.
Well, and to take something that's going to happen to you, whether you like it or not, so often, right? I mean, we're not telling anybody on this boat something that they don't really have a handle on. Guilt is going to be probably the number one emotion, especially in the first, 2 to 3 years. It's just going to be overwhelming so often. I don't know that there's a better piece of advice of taking the most negative thing that is going to happen to you more often than anything else and turning it into a positive. To take that every time those memories come up and just say, I'm anchoring my sobriety on this. I'm not the guy that did that. Or the gal that did that. So I got no reason to be treating myself like, people. I wish I could remember the name of the gentleman but right in the beginning, there was the guy that talked about, you don't hate every single person in a country when you get a dictator that does something in the country. Right. And that's, alcohol and drugs dictate what you're doing in your head. I mean, that's what happens. The decisions we made, I promise you people, no one in their right mind did the things that I did. And I was not in my right mind. It was heroin writing the checks. I just had to cash them and put up with the overdrawn account and all that. But it was, and once you really get that under control, there's no reason to beat yourself up. There isn't. I mean, you own it. Like Alan says, you don't forget it. You're going to anchor this, but don't beat yourself up. It's pointless.
No, I agree. You've just got to, use it as a positive if you can, and it'll take time. It takes time, but it's recovery. You've got time. You've got all the time in the world. You've got your future ahead of you. Yeah, use it.
You're not chasing your drug no more or alcohol or whatever.
Right,
you got a lot of time. Got a lot of time. For sure.
Use it, and you will create new memories. You will, and they'll be positive memories, and they'll begin to override the negative ones. I can guarantee you. Or in my recovery, it has anyway. So it's a good thing.
Well, I think we're at the top there, guys. Alan, you want to sum it up at all, or are you good?
I'm good. I'm just thank you again for having me on. I hope it was okay and someone learns something from it or help benefit from it. That's what I've done it for. And thank you guys again for being so great.
Well, and I'm sure that this is not your last visit here to the lifeboat. There's no chance of that. So we will see Alan live from Australia again, people. You can pretty much guarantee that. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We're going to be back tomorrow night, same bad time, same bad channel. We're going to be doing the same bad thing. And between now and then, people, you have one assignment: reach out and try to save somebody. These are vital times. We've talked about it, right? Plenty of bad stuff going on. This is the time to reach out and try to save somebody. Drag them to the boat, kicking and screaming if necessary. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and on the other side of the glass,
Mark Wages.
Thank you so much, Alan Ballantyne. My basket is empty. Squirrel's still upset. Good night, everybody. I love you all.